Thank you, Paul, and I can't tell you how emotional I am at this moment to see so many friends come out to be supportive. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out, and I am delighted that we are joined here today. Of course, very shortly I'll have the honor of introducing the minister, but I'm delighted that my colleague and friend and brother Paul Calandra is here. We're actually in his riding. This is Oak Ridge's Mark. I'm just a little bit south of here, so Paul, thank you so much for being here today. Frank Cleese, Frank was, he's the provincial member of parliament for Newmarket Aurora, but was one of the very first people at my very first fundraiser before I was elected to endorse me and to come out. And I gotta tell you, this man is a leader in this province. And of course, I see Councillor Greg Barrows is here with us. I'm not sure if this is your ward, or just north of here. So I want to thank Councillor Barrows for being here with us and joining us, a good friend. And so many community leaders, so many people. Former Mayor Duffy, thank you so much. I remember golfing as a golf tournament with you 25 years ago, and it's so nice to be here together. But so many friends, so many leaders from so many communities and so many people, and I can't emphasize how important it is to have your support. Before I was elected, we had an opportunity to meet, to get together. I knocked on about 22,000 doors, and I have to tell you, I was very pleased with very good reception, but I had no idea that the Conservative Party and me as the candidate would be successful in the best town, in the best province, the best country that is, Richmond Hill. And the reason I have no idea is, for those of you that don't know, the area that is now basically known as Richmond Hill had been pretty much Liberal for about 80 years. So we started well behind in the polls, and the very first indication I had was in April of 2011, in the heart of the campaign, when I was knocking on the doors. But on April 30th, on the Right Honourable Prime Minister's birthday, the Prime Ministerial bus came to Richmond Hill. And I thought, you know what? If the big guy's coming here, we have a shot! And sure enough, 2 days later, Richmond Hill was painted blue. We won 76% of the poll, largely due in part to the great leadership of our Prime Minister, our Conservative Party, and your support, without which there's no way we'd win anything. So thank you very, very, very much. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Paul Fitzgerald, the president of the Richmond Hill Electoral Right Association, BDA. Paul has been a stalwart in his leadership and a great friend and a great supporter. So through you, Paul, I want to thank the EDA for all of your efforts in promoting our party right here in Richmond Hill. I also want to thank Paul, and through Paul, the organizing committee. I know Jackie Cousins has worked an incredible amount of hours putting this function together today. So I want to thank Jackie and Paul and the entire team for all of your efforts. I want to thank Dory McDonald and Highlight Food Service for the wonderful job and wonderful food that you see, that I hope all of you will have an opportunity to avail yourselves to some of this year. And I know my good friend Shahramian from the Iranian community brought some beautiful Iranian food here. So it'd be nice to enjoy some of the next Persian foods as well. So, and I think there's some Greek pastries around somewhere, so I gotta stay away from those because that's how I get into trouble. So thank you to everybody, of course, to Loyal, True Blue, and Orange Home right here. It's a beautiful facility to hold an event like this. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor today of introducing one of Canada's most dynamic ministers, a person that has dedicated a good part of her career to public service, and certainly with our government. She has served in several capacities, and I don't want to miss a few of the key points. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read a couple of her many accomplishments to give you an idea of who the minister is. I can tell you that she's a great friend of Richmond Hill. When I approached her, and my team approached her, and asked her if she would be willing to come up and participate and join us in this event. She immediately said yes and instructed her staff to put that on her schedule. She flew back from Florida today so that she could be here with us. And unfortunately, we didn't have the Florida weather for her, and she didn't bring it back for us. But we're just absolutely delighted that the minister is here with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, Lisa Raitt was first elected to the House of Commons in 2008 and re-elected in 2011. She was appointed Minister of Natural Resources in October of 2008 and Minister of Labor in January 2010. Many of you may know she's the prominent person, the lead for our government on issues with negotiations with Canada Post, Air Canada, and a lot of other things that affect our everyday lives and our economy. Prior to her election to the House of Commons, Lisa was the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Toronto Port Authority. She had previously served as the Toronto Port Authority's General Counsel and Harbour Master. Lisa is a graduate of St. Francis Xavier University and holds a Master of Science degree from the University of Guelph. She earned her law degree from Osgoode Hall at York University. As a lawyer, she specialized in the areas of intellectual property, commercial litigation, and shipping arbitration. Lisa is an active member of her community. She volunteers as a Halton canvasser and fundraiser for the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. And she's a very active hockey mom, I know that. And for her children's hockey, soccer, and gymnastics organizations. In 2002, she was invited to become a member of the Canadian chapter of the Worldwide Young Presidents Organization. Lisa lives in Milton, is the mother of 2 boys. She's one of the most dynamic cabinet ministers in Canada's strong, stable, national, majority conservative government. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Minister, Lisa Raitt.
Every time a conservative says that phrase, I don't even know what it is, but I'm pretty sure that an angel gets their wings every time they say that, much like the movie. I'm just going to clip this in here, excuse me for a second. Actually, I'll have Costas do it. Thank you very much. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is an absolute pleasure to be here in Richmond Hill. I understand that I'm on the border of 2 ridings, so I don't know who to thank for being here tonight, Mr. Menegakis or Mr. Calandra, but I thank them both for allowing me to come to this part of Ontario. I'm the proud representative of Halton, and Halton is a very large riding, and it's probably going to be, it will be divided up in the next census, in the next election. And I currently live in Milton, but I represent North Oakville and North Burlington as well as everything in between. So it's not a difficult drive here, and I really appreciate Costas you thanking me for the great efforts. The truth is we were coming back from Florida anyway. I've had my kids out of school already for 3 days. But more importantly, I really do enjoy these moments. I really do enjoy coming into other members of Parliament's communities because this is where you see Canada. This is where you see what is really happening out there. And this is where you get to do what Costas just did, and that's thank the people who make sure that we do have that strong, stable, national conservative majority government. See, I can't do it off the top of my head as well, too. You know, Costas made an impression early on for me, actually. He's always smiling. He's always willing to help. He's always very engaging. I didn't realize what a great speaker you were without notes, which is fantastic as well, too. But what I take away, what I can tell you what your MP represents in Ottawa to me in my interaction, he is a true gentleman. He's a very hard worker, and he's always extremely conscientious about who he's representing. But I want to tell you one story why I actually got to know Costas a little bit. It was in just after we had been elected. Now, Paul and I are both from the class of 08. I thought for some reason Paul was here since 06 because he seemed to have it far more together on the national stage than I did when I arrived in 08. What did you say, Paul? He's got more gray hair. Because he has more gray hair. Well, I enhance mine, so that's why it doesn't become as gray. But I remember we had just been elected. It was May of 2011. We were facing the Canada Post strike. In fact, it was a lockout. And the rolling strikes had started first. The government did not intervene and went on for 20 days. And we seemed to be getting some good feedback from businesses, but it was Costas who came up to me, and I don't know if you remember this, Costas. You grabbed me one day after GTA caucus and you said, "My business depends upon Canada Post. You don't understand how important this is." And it was that moment I realized we need to get a better handle on exactly how this is affected. So when Canada Post locked out, we were ready to go. And of course, Paul and Costas were there to make sure during that 57.5-hour filibuster that the seats were filled, that speeches were made, and indeed we were able to get what Canadians wanted, which was their mail to be delivered again. You know, that's a mark of a very capable member of Parliament. And in fact, you know, before I came here, I was taking a look at the riding, and I do see that my good friend Vic Gupta is here, and I know Vic ran provincially here. Vic and I, full disclosure, we go way back to Toronto Port Authority days. We saw each other today, and if anyone's listening to 680 News, you'll know that Porter, the Port Authority, and the airport are back in the news today. Vic looked at me, I looked at him, and we both have decided just not to talk about it. It's not a topic we're going to have this evening in the discussion. But I'm really glad to see Vic here because I tried to come up for a I guess it would have been a joint fundraiser at one point in time, Costas, and I was unable to make it work. But I was taking a look at who your representative, there's Vic right there. Applause everybody for Vic. But I was taking a look at the history of the ride and the demographics, and then I realized, you know, Costas was class of 2011, which made me think, well, who was the MP before? And I'm thinking, and you know what? I couldn't figure out who your MP was before. And even when I read the name, I get Byron confused with Boris from Etobicoke. So unfortunately, for the 3 years that I was in the House with your former MP, he didn't make an impression on me whatsoever, whereas Costas made a huge impression upon me as being extremely capable and conscientious. So what do I want to talk about tonight? Well, it's an easy topic for me, because we've just come off the heels of Minister Flaherty standing in the House in his place and delivering our budget for this year, the Economic Action Plan 2013. And what was interesting about it is there's no question what it is. It is a low tax plan. It is to return to balanced budgets by 2015, and we want to make sure that we grow jobs and economic prosperity. But Minister Flaherty went through the process. He talked about where we've been, he talked about where we are, and where we're going. And one of the important things that he did was he actually started talking about the things we need to do. Because it's not just about low taxes, and it's not just about making sure we return to balanced budgets. He recognized that some areas needed attention, and these are areas that are really important in our world here in Ontario, especially in the GTA. Number one, we're going to address the infrastructure issues that we have. And anybody who's driven on any of the highway systems here or has taken public transit knows that the federal government's involvement is extremely needed and extremely welcome. So we have before us, within this plan, the largest and longest infrastructure spending by any federal government in the history of this nation. That is a commitment to the needs and the wants of this community, without a question. The second thing Minister Flaherty talked about was research and innovation and manufacturing. Those things that were once the blood of our province, those things that continue to be the blood of our province that we need to bring back, and how we're going to support those things. Thirdly, in my portfolio in labor, I've had a great opportunity to travel the country, to talk to round tables about what is needed, employers, employees. And there's one common theme. It's the parents who are worried that their kids don't have the right skills and aren't going to be employed, and it's the employers who are worried that they can't get the right skilled people for the jobs. This is a reality of our country, and we're going to be taking a hard look at fixing that with the Canada Jobs Grant and putting the employers and the workers together. And then finally, we want to make sure that we open those new markets, because Canada is a trading nation, and we want to make sure that we have as best trade that we can with all the countries. Look at the room that we're in tonight. Look around you. Think of the languages we speak. Think of the business experience we have in the countries from where we all came from. Why shouldn't we use that as an economic edge and really be the world leader that we can be in trade? And And that's exactly what we're going to do through Minister Fast and through Ed Flaherty. I just combined Jim Flaherty and Ed Fast into one person, although we need them both doing their own jobs. But between Jim Flaherty and Ed Fast, we know, and John Baird, of course, too, is our foreign minister, those are the things that need to be done to ensure that economic prosperity. You know, we didn't cut transfers, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't raise taxes. We did this by making sure we're putting into place the things that are needed for growth. But at the same time, we got to tighten our belts. Just like you tighten your belts in your household, the first thing you look at are your cable bills, your telephone bills. Are you doing everything you possibly can to conserve? Are you doing as much as you can to consolidate? We're doing that in the government because we want to make sure that we get value for that taxpayer dollar. So now that the budget has been presented, what's the reaction? I can tell you that Labour has indicated positively. They do like what's happening on Canada Jobs Grant. They do like what's happening on apprenticeships and internships because they want to be able to fill those jobs as well too. And employers, they're happy as well too because we're addressing those issues. We're helping on manufacturing. We're going to put innovation and research back on the map. But what do the other parties say? Well, we didn't get a lot of it in the time before we rose on this Easter break. But I can tell you what I think we're going to see in the next week. They're going to want more, they're going to want us to spend more, they're going to want us to tax more, and they're going to want us to give more. I think that's very clear that that is what the plan of the parties are. They claim that we're giving an austerity budget. This is not an austerity budget, ladies and gentlemen. You don't spend $55 billion in infrastructure and be able to call it an austerity budget. And I'll come back to that at the end because I think that's an important point as well. But what they are proposing at the end of the day, from my perspective, and I'm not a huge partisan, I came into the public service side of it. I truly believe in serving my country. I did it as a public servant. I'm going to do it as a politician because as a politician, you can really make effective change that we want to make. And I truly believe in this Prime Minister. But what I do see is nothing but socialist schemes and the dreams of a drama teacher. That's all I see out there. I'm not seeing a lot more from the parties. And it's very disconcerting because what they are proposing is just for us to give more to them and hope that they figure it out along the way. What do you have in contrast? Well, in our party, in fairness, there are some who believe that we're not cutting fast enough, that we're not tightening quickly, that we should get everything done right now. And that is a valid concern, that we should return to those balanced budgets right away. But we have to take a step back. It's not that easy to just cut and not necessarily have the effects that we would see. It's a precarious time in the economic world. We are joined by a net. There's no question about it. So far, Canada has done extraordinarily well. Best record in the G7, net new jobs over 900,000, 90% of them in the private sector. Those are things to be very, very proud of. So what we do need to do is we need to balance. And I guess this is my closing comments for you all, and I do appreciate your attention. You know, in people like Paul and in Costas and in Minister Flaherty, we have skill, we have business expertise, and we have knowledge and intelligence for people who can balance the needs of people, understand the needs of the communities, to balance that with the growth of the economy that we need to return to balanced budgets. But making sure at the same time that we have prosperity not only for us, for our children, but really our children's children. This is a long-term game. This is not something that we are in only for the short term. This is a fix that has to happen over a period of time. And I know when we have a person at our helm, like the Prime Minister, who, if you look at it from a global perspective, is the senior statesman on the world stage and has much respect of the other statesmen. And you want to know why? Because you can look at our record. And I told you the record about the G7, and we can talk about the IMF and the OECD and all those other initials that people like to quote all the time to show what we know inherently and we should be far more proud of is, you know what? We've done good. We've done very, very good. And we've done good because we've elected a man like Stephen Harper, plain and simple. And I'm very grateful to be able to come here tonight on behalf of the Prime Minister, on behalf of my colleagues, just to thank you. Thank you very much for supporting us. Thank you so very much for ensuring that we're the party that's doing that balancing, to make sure that the taxes aren't rising, to make sure that the health transfers are being cut in order to meet a balanced budget, to ensure that we're thinking in the long term, because that's what it's all about. I got into politics, and I'm sure Costas and Paul has a young family too. We got into politics in a lot of cases because we want a better world, and yeah, that's idealistic. But you know what? You need a few of us out there. You need a few of us who are willing to put in a number of years just to make sure that your kids are going to do better than you. And I want to make sure that Canada is that place where it can still happen. And I'm so grateful that you elected Costas in this area, because this riding was held for a very long time. Thank you for your support. Thank you for ensuring that Canada will continue to be the best nation in this world to live, to work, to raise a family. I want to say God bless you so much for your hard work. And finally, I want to say God bless Canada. Thank you very much.